Keith Longshore, Kim Hawksworth. The other friends were the Goldens.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Packers.
You had Jimmy, and you had Bill.
Bill has the house now.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Was he really?
Jimmy's passed.
Jimmy's passed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there were 6 boys.
There were like 14 of them, wasn't there?
Well, there was a total of 11 that lived in the house. There was 6 boys and 3 girls, and mom and dad.
I also remember at that time the girl that I thought for sure I was going to marry.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Who was that?
Lived one door east of the Goldens. Judy Wycliffe.
One door east. One door east of the
closer to us.
That was the Packards.
Oh, then it must have been the next house.
Okay,
Judy Wycliffe.
Was
Judy
it Wycliffe?
Wycliffe.
Because they had Ron. Ron was their brother. There was Judy, Susie, and Ron.
She was
Wycliffe?
out.
Was that their last name?
Yeah, Judy Wycliffe, and she was flat out gorgeous, and
she was little. I mean, she was just a kid. But you're right.
Yeah.
That's the first time we saw our dad was in front of their house. Remember that? You had your bike parked in the driveway, and the mother backed down over the bike. I was like 6, you were like 5, and she felt really bad, but obviously it was our fault. We put the
right.
So we were sitting out there on the lawn, and this guy pulls up in a car, and he says, "Hi, Mike and Nick." Remember that?
I remember you. Yeah, I remember.
Right, and he came up and he says, "You don't know me." He says, "But I'm your dad." And he said, "Tell your mama I'll call her later." So I mean, naturally, we're like wide-eyed, going, "Whoa!"
Oh yeah.
And we were running to the house, and mom had just gotten out of the shower. She was still in the bathroom, and we're knocking on the door, saying, "Mom, we just met Dad." And she's like, "What?" So I mean, we talked to her, and then sure enough, later that night, he called and wanted to see all 3 of us, and she said no. And
She put that off for a long time.
And then the next time, when we actually did meet him, and actually, remember that? We went to Jerry's driving.
I was 14, you were 16. You were driving the Pontiac.
I was driving the Pontiac. I just gotten my license.
Just gotten your license, driving the Catalina.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And we met him in the foyer of the Deschler Hotel in Rodenheim.
There you go. Yeah. And went to Jerry's.
And went to Jerry's Drive-In and got a strawberry pie. Spent a couple hours with him, and I'll never forget it. We're standing, took him back to the hotel, and we were standing out in front of the doors, and the last thing he said was, "Tell your mother I still love her."
Oh, I don't remember that.
I remember that. And
is that right?
I got mad. I mean, because I understood at that point, child support and helping out and all that stuff. And it just...
Well, there was none of that.
No. Mother didn't want us to have anything to do with him, including his name.
Right.
And boy, she was way ahead of her time when all that happened, when she changed our names back to her maiden name.
Right.
But yeah, I specifically remember him saying, "Tell your mother I still love her," and it just sent chills down my spine.
I don't remember that.
Because of all the things that we were told about him.
Well, sure.
Well, and the pictures that they painted of him, you wonder whether he was that bad. But I think since then we have found out
he wasn't a great parent.
He wasn't a great parent. He didn't like to work.
Right. And he kept secrets.
Oh, no, see,
Well, I mean, his second family had no idea we existed.
Okay.
Michael, I mean, he got married to Elsie, who, from what I can tell, was a sweet woman. Okay. He got married to Elsie, and she gets pregnant with a boy, and
Michael Buckeye.
Yeah, and she said, "I've always liked the name Michael." Hello.
Yeah.
But I think he may have known that the names were legally changed back. to Mom's maiden name. He may have known and said, okay, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
But when Amy read my blog on the Pocahontas and Michael and all that stuff, and I went through that whole history, and then I ultimately did talk to Michael Pocahontas.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
He wasn't real cordial, as I recall.
Well, he was fine in the beginning, but then when I pieced the whole history together and I made that page,
right?
You know, again, for future generations, whoever it is, I took a lot of what his daughter told me,
Amy, yeah.
You know, and he wasn't a nice guy, man. I mean, he lied to the veterans thing, administration, and managed to get some kind of compensation because he was supposedly disabled somehow. But he told Michael that he was with the CID, and then he was with the CIA, and he was always on secret missions. He could speak 7 languages and was in Saudi Arabia a lot, and this and that. It's because he was never home. I mean,
was it you that were telling me that he spent a lot of time in Branson?
Oh, I don't know. I
heard that.
I don't know. That wouldn't surprise me.
That he spent weeks at a time in Branson. You know, when he went on these trips and things, that he would spend like weeks at a time in Branson, Missouri.
Well, that's probably where he met Elsie.
And partied it up.
That's where he met Elsie.
Pretty good.
Elsie was from Missouri.
Yeah.
So
now, do you remember? I don't know whether Mom and Gus, Bill, and Jim pitched all in, but they bought him that shoe repair shop
right
on High Street.
Yeah, Mom didn't have any money. It was
right.
I think it was Gus and
on
Bill
on campus. And
no, the shoe repair shop wasn't on campus.
Well, I thought it was on High Street.
It was on Broad Street.
Oh, see, I was all under the impression it was somewhere near Pyatt's restaurant.
No. That was campus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was on Broad Street.
Okay.
And
but
I may even have the address.
I guess he was never there.
Right, no. Yeah, he liked the horses.
Oh.
He liked gambling.
Well, I knew he liked to gamble.
And I've got it. And apparently he was a very good cobbler, you know. As a matter of fact, one of the things on that poster was a picture of him working at a shoe repair shop.
Did he learn that as a trade?
Well, he may have learned it at that other. This was in 50. I forget. No, he would have learned the trade earlier. Somewhere along the line, he had to have learned the trade. I don't know. Maybe he learned it in the service.
Could be, because I mean that's a skill.
You bet.
You can't just jump right in and start doing that.
No. So, yeah, there's a lot of mystery around him.
That brings up some other thoughts.
Okay.
Of Pyatt's restaurant.
Right.
And Uncle Jim.
Right. This was our Yaya's sister's husband. And,
Jim Kartzmas.
Right.
And he owned a restaurant on campus.
Right.
Called Pyatt's Restaurant.
Right. Mom worked there.
And I can remember after church, we would go in there and we'd have sandwiches or something. Right. But we were really young.
Oh, yeah.
We were really
he didn't have it that long. I mean, he had it a long time, but after our birth, by the end of the 50s, he had gotten rid of it.
Okay.
Because he had retired.
Wow, he retired in the late 50s?
Well, I mean,
goodness.
He would have been, late 50s, early 60s, because you got to figure he was, and Catherine was the oldest of the sisters, and, Calliope was the oldest.
Calliope was the oldest.
Yeah, Catherine was older than Yaya.
Right.
So she would have been in her 60s easily, and I know Uncle Jim was older.
Was Catherine older than Yaya?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was Calliope, Catherine, Evgenia, Vespina, and then maybe there was only 4. Maybe there was only 4. But anyway, so I think
did Dad work at Pyatt's?
I think
I seem to recall Dad being in the kitchen. Uncle Jim took us back into the kitchen.
Right.
One time, and I seem to recall Dad. I don't know if he was cooking or doing dishes or whatever, but I seem to recall Dad working there.
Well, he worked there, and he also worked at Hudson's. which was Uncle John's
Uncle
restaurant,
John's restaurant on
which
Cleveland
was our
Avenue.
Yaya's other sister's husband.
That was on Cleveland Avenue.
No, that was up on Hudson Avenue.
Hudson. Why did I think it was on?
Maybe.
I think it was on.
I think
Cleveland
it was
Avenue.
on Cleveland. I think
It
you're
was
right.
on
I think
Cleveland
you're right.
Avenue. It was right down, very close to Dad's first restaurant, Chef Casino. It was in that area because I recall something about Uncle John serving a lot of the Timken roller bearing.
Oh well, very very possible.
Timken roller bearing people.
Yeah, which
which was a lot of Dad's business.
Oh,
as
yeah.
Chefs.
Right,
Because Chefs was right down the street.
right.
But yeah, he worked there, and then as I recall from there, Dad went to George's,
Right.
worked for George Balazzi, was it?
Well, Ballas is what the name they used. Petropolis was his name.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And he did dishes and did all the scud work and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously years later bought the place with Nick Marimatis.
Yeah, but that was after Forest Park Inn and all that.
Oh, no, he had that before Forest Park Inn was sold.
But no, what I'm saying is he went from George's to Chef's Casino, from Chef's to Forest Park Inn, and then while he was in Forest Park Inn, they went ahead and Maverick didn't want to buy it by himself.
Right.
So he talked Dad into,
And I always thought at that time, that was one of the biggest mistakes Mom and Dad ever made, was getting involved in Forest Park Inn with Uncle Gus.
Well, it was. It turned out to be, and Gus Travelak.
I would just, well, that lasted 6 months.
Yeah.
When Dad had Chefs, we were doing really well. I can remember weekends, you and Mom and myself, we'd go to Northland Shopping Center and just have us a ball. We'd buy stuff and just carry on. And then I remember Dad, before Chef Casino, he'd be leaving George's, and he'd come home with a sack of like a dozen conies.
Oh, yeah.
Best
conies in the
and
world.
6 of them were for you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't put 6 down. I managed 4, but man,
I
those smell so good when they came in the
I still
door.
got the recipe if you ever want.
Are you serious?
Oh, I've got the
The
recipe.
coney sauce recipe, seriously?
I've got it cut down to a quart.
Only need onions and cheese and you're there.
Oh, I've made them. I've made them. I've got the recipe. I've made them. Believe me, I've treated people.
I'm not that I'm a big hot dog person.
Oh no, but that's
in my mind.
You can't say a
would-
hot dog and George's in the same breath.
Well, no. In my mind, that would take me right back to that time.
I was the only
If I
person that ever
tasted
wrote it
that-
down.
Yeah, that's.
I made them. I'll tell you. When I went out west one time, I made them for the kids out there, Adam and I, and this and that. And Don Full Love, who's a good friend of Adam's, he was the mayor in the Back to the Future.